Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here on my next Airspeed's Avatar Rewatch video. This one's going to be for Book 3 Fire, Episode 15, The Boiling Rock Part 2. This one's animated by Moy Animation. I think that in itself is an interesting one in that the clearly more important, dramatic, better episode of the two is done by the secondary animation studio. And I think I've said this a few times now, and it really seems like, especially after the maybe initial run of episodes, there really wasn't any sort of preference for like, oh, we have to have the main studio do this over this, because there's been a few times where DR Movie or Moy have done the kind of bigger episode. Now, I think ultimately by the end of the series they have kind of like, obviously with the finale, I think it's JM does, I think it's 3 out of the 4 finale episodes, though we'll get there, we'll see how it actually plays out. But that was just a little point. This is a really well animated episode, and they had to get it right because there's so many big moments. Yeah, it's a fantastic episode. I think it is one of the best of the series. I think obviously there's a few episodes that are above it, but this one I think for sure has to be within that discussion, just because there is so many eventful things that do happen. It's maybe a bit too like self-contained off to itself, but there's for sure, I think, a couple of candidates for like some of the best like moments of the kind of series for like big character moments. But yeah, the plan this time out is, of course, once Sokka meets with his father, we get some reunion moments, is to use the gondola to escape, and they're going to need a prisoner as well. And I like how pretty much it's just like Zuko gets taken off for a little bit, has a scene with May, but pretty much after that, it's just the plan starts and we see it through to the end, and it just works out so well because it leaves so much room for action and some really great set piece moments, and I think the little distractions away from the action stuff actually set up really good moments. Of the only few times, as I said, we separate are to have that emotional moment between May and Zuko, to have the arrival of Azula, and so on. So I suppose we'll start, with the May and Zuko scene, which is really interesting because obviously Zuko knew that it was her uncle in charge of the prison, but he kind of didn't expect her to show up, so he is a bit taken aback. And you see, his problems, I suppose, communicating exactly what he wants to say to her, in that I suppose to a degree he doesn't want to just like go in depth and basically tell her the entire plan, like just on the off chance that she doesn't side with him, and he's not revealing the full extent of any sort of a plan that he has to her, but that he is trying to make it clear to her that, this is how I feel about this. I realize that this is what I have to do, that in sending this letter to you and breaking things off with you, it was to protect you, and he's sorry about it. But obviously May at this point doesn't realize the full extent of why Zuko left, and is very upset by it. But I think in the scene where Zuko sees the moment to escape and takes it, and they have that stare through the kind of little grate in the door, I think she sees his like drive towards whatever he's doing, and realizes that as much as she feels betrayed by what he's done, that she sees how, I suppose, him kind of passionate about something that he isn't often passionate about, and sees perhaps maybe some of the scenes from before where he wasn't really himself around Ozai and back in the Fire Nation, but here he feels more like the person she actually really cares about and has found his path seemingly. And I think it's kind of because of that she makes her mind up that maybe if there was a bit better communication and he explained himself well to her, she maybe would have sided with him in the first place. But I think it took May seeing Zuko be this driven towards a goal, and see him not so angry about everything, and kind of being more the person that she kind of fell for in the past, like those flashback scenes where she had the crush on Zuko. She sees him much more like that now, and I think that's why she makes the decision that she does, which I just think is a really cool thing to do for who is, May and Ty Lee, I think both haven't had a ton of development, So this is a great moment for Mei to kind of have this really huge moment and setting her up with Zuko as a relationship, but then having this big moment around their breakup actually happen. It's really, really well done to develop aspects of the relationship. In that, one thing I think they bring up is obviously that Mei says, like, what are you talking about? Like, you're a traitor to your nation, and like because Zuko said he wants to save the Fire Nation, and Zuko just says, that's not how I see it, because obviously it would take a lot for him to explain the full scope of kind of how he feels in terms of like the true history of everything that's happened, and what we need to defeat versus not defeat and so on. But again, I think she sees the determination in the way he says that, and it kind of works out well. So there's that. The arrival of Azula is interesting because obviously the big Chit Sang moment in the episode is that it seems like after his little bit of torture, he's going to give away Sokka as the person who's undercover as a guard, but instead he basically outs the guard who he's had a rivalry with from the start of the previous episode to keep the plan alive, because he knows that Sokka's going to have a second escape attempt, and that him not outing him is a perfect way to get on board with that escape attempt. So Chit Sang playing the game pretty nicely there to keep everyone in play, and he gets obviously involved in this escape attempt, so that was nice, and it directly sets up Azula coming and immediately seeing that this guard is not part of any problem, and that gets her on track for something's happening here, I need to be involved with it. But yeah, the actual escape attempt with everyone out is really interesting in that they start the riot. I think that's a really, really hilarious scene in that Hakoda's like the experienced one. He's helped Sokka to come up with this plan, and he's just like, okay, I think I know what I can do here. Tries to push a guy, chooses the wrong guy who's dealt with his anger, but then Chit Sang just picks up another prisoner and just like throws him up and down and says riot, and it starts. It's a really funny scene to get over like Chit Sang, that like this is the sort of stuff he can do as like a prison veteran. But then it obviously leads to Suki's big moment of they don't have the prisoner. The riot has maybe created too much of a distraction where they can't actually get to the warden all that well. And it leads to just a really great Suki moment where she just like runs over everyone's heads. So yes, Suki running over everyone's heads. Amazing gymnastics to get up onto the the platform, and then just immediately takes out a bunch of firebenders and captures the warden. And they obviously have the guys really following her out of breath, and she's not out of breath, and it's just like, that's how awesome Suki is, and definitely one of the best non-bender fighters. Just really, really excellent moment for her, and it's just like, in the comics, like right now, why can't she be part of the group? Why can't she be included in Team Avatar stuff more? Why is she always kept separate? That comes into play, but it's nice to see everyone working together here as the scene obviously switches to the big gondola scene, and it's a great set piece moment to have this amazing battle as Azula and Ty Lee head out onto the gondola, and then we basically have Suki, Sokka, and Zuko versus Ty Lee and Azula on top of the gondola as Chit Sang and Hakoda basically watch the warden. It's awesome because you obviously have the kind of rematch, and you play Ty Lee versus Suki as like two of the best non-bender fighters, and then you have Zuko and Sokka versus Azula, and it works out so well because Zuko's basically just kind of assisting Sokka here, that he's kind of aware that they can't go overboard with the firebending because they're in such a precarious situation. So all he does is defend Azula's attacks and basically let Sokka do most of the attacking with his sword, because the sword is really suited to the situation that they're in that Azula doesn't have a lot of room to dodge for the most part out of the way. So it really kind of puts her at a disadvantage here, because Zuko, his new style and his new philosophy, he can be more defensive like that, kind of like Iroh can be, a bit like Zhang as well. And just to see him so confident in this kind of battle, it's really cool to see like Zuko having backup when a lot of the time it hasn't been that way. It's always been Zuko gets himself into a crazy situation on his own and just about gets there but fails right at the end. But now he has the backup to really like push Azula to the limit. And obviously what happens is that the warden gets free, calls for the lines to be cut. This is how desperate this guy is to keep this record of the prison, that he's willing to basically get himself killed, to kill everyone, to make sure no one escapes. Which is a really cool thing to add that level of dedication to a character like this. With a Fire Nation character, you'd almost expect him to be a coward in the end and just demand, like, no, 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 I'm in danger, save me, or something like that. But no, he's willing to let himself be killed here over this, which I think is just a cool thing to have for just a really, really minor character who only appears in these 2 episodes. And that, of course, it leads to the moment of basically Azula and Ty Lee leaving on a gondola going the other way, as they're aware that the prison escape has to go that way, and they can't really easily transfer. Maybe Zuko, Sokka, Suki can get over, but like Hakoda, Chitsang, and the warden aren't going to be able to get over to the other gondola, so they're pretty sure that this is going to end. Everyone, though, doesn't see May's big turn coming, because I just love this moment where, like, May for the most part has been, like, I think of Ozai's Angels, the least developed of them. They've done more with her, with the relationship with Zuko, because she's been more in the spotlight. But seeing her get such a big moment like this of, like, you know, taking out all the guards who are trying to cut the line, and have her be this big betrayal moment as, like, everyone sees her and it's just like, whoa, what is she doing? Azula's like, what is she doing? Ty Lee's like that. Zuko is. And Zuko sees, I suppose, May helping him, and Azula's seeing May betraying her. So it's this incredible moment of, like, Azula's heading down towards May, Zuko's heading away, but she has made her mind up that regardless of what happens, she is happy with the decision that she made. And obviously it leads to our main group escaping. I love Hakoda saying to the warden that, you know, like, your record has been broken as they leave. They take Azula's airship to get back to the Western Air Temple. And it leaves us with this dramatic moment of basically May against everyone else. All the Fire Nation guards, Ty Lee and Azula. And the confrontation it's set up so well, because it's just this defiant May who is showing this kind of passion that we don't often see from her. She's very defiant in this scene, standing up to Azula here. And I love how Ty Lee is kind of like in the middle of them. She's closer to Azula, but she's terrified, like, because these are like her friends, and she doesn't like where this is going to go. And I like that she's kind of aware that she's shocked at what May has done, but she's much more concerned about what Azula will do, because obviously I think Ty Lee of the two, of May and Azula, is much more afraid of Azula. So you see Azula be, like, utterly, like, furious at May that she would betray her like this. And I love that it highlights that May is completely aware of this is how Azula operates, that she controls people through fear, and that May is aware in this moment that her love for Zuko is what is basically getting her through how scared she is of Azula. And it's this idea for Azula of, like, a thing she focuses on, fear and manipulation. There's something that can make people feel stronger than that, and in this case it's love. And I think that it's those sort of concepts of just proper friendship, love, that sort of thing, that Azula doesn't really get and can't understand and can't get to that level. So it is the big breaking point for Azula in a way. Like, this moment, say what you will about where it later goes, it starts fundamentally with this. These two people who've been with her, like, for the most part, like, basically, like, just after her introduction, you know, the start of this book 2, you know, she's formed this team. These have been the two people who've gone with her through all of these kind of missions, and now they've betrayed her. And it's this breaking point for the fact that she does control people through fear. She doesn't really have any, you know, friends who are with her, like, just out of loyalty from a friendship perspective. It's always like they respect her as, like, a military commander or this, and they manipulate her, which is strong, but that fundamentally people will fall away from her if they care more strongly about something else. And when Azula goes to basically take out May, I love how May is willing to fight back. She has the knife out and is willing to go toe-to-toe with Azula. And obviously, I think we know that more or less that fight would go the same way as the Suki Azula fight did, and that Azula would probably win. But it shows May's kind of dedication, that this really in a way, emotionless character who hasn't shown a lot of feelings is, ready for a fight. She is, fiery in this scene, which is, pretty interesting to see the side of May that like Zuko actually likes to see sometimes, her be more passionate about things, and she's willing to go for this fight. And it's that great moment of the even bigger surprise is Ty Lee chi blocking Azula just as this is about to happen. And I love how May is like super shocked by this, almost more so than Azula is, because Ty Lee is the one you least expect to do this, because she has been presented as the one who is even more afraid of Azula, in that May has often like gone away from a mission and just lost interest in a mission, and has never really been afraid of any consequences for it, in that she's always like not been overly afraid of Azula, but Ty Lee has been. This entire thing, that's always been the thing with her, of like Azula both respects but also fears Azula, and because of those two things she has this amazing connection to her. But I think it's at this moment we realize that like there's a greater friendship between Ty Lee and May than there is between May and Ty Lee and their interaction with Azula. That May and Ty Lee are actually friends, whereas it might have been the case where they actually liked Azula in the past, but it is much more of like she's the commander of this small little group based on the past friendship, and she's kind of lost the ability to, in a way, hold what an actual friendship actually is. So Ty Lee making the big decision to side with the person who actually like cares about her as more than just like, oh, you're strong in a fight type thing. So amazing moment for both of those characters, because as I said, they haven't had too many like notable character moments, and all of a sudden you give them one of the biggest moments in the entire series, because May and Ty Lee's betrayal of Azula ends up being this defining moment for Azula's character, in a way, of like shattering the thing that she's most confident in, and now the two people she in a way had the most confidence over controlling have gone away from her. So she's kind of doubting herself going forward after this Azula. She's much more like manic and, aggressive, angry after this point, and that switch actually lowers Azula's kind of skill, in a way that Azula being more angry, more aggressive, actually takes away from how calculating and cold she usually is, and how powerful she actually is most of the time. And it basically, it's this and her decisions that she makes afterwards, kind of in response to this, that really kind of make things go the way they do in the finale. That she loses herself the battle, Azula, after this point. And it's amazing that just May and Ty Lee are basically the ones whose like actions kind of end up leading to Azula's big downturn. And it's why in the comics going forward, I think May and Ty Lee kind of have to be involved somewhere in whatever is going on with Azula going forward. That I think their friendship is an important thing to her, and whatever way they attempt to resolve it, I think will involve May and Ty Lee, and I hope they get that right whenever they commit to doing it. But either way, May and Ty Lee are both captured at this point, and in a way I kind of like that. Like for Azula, she can't bring herself, like after she's knocked out on the ground, she can't bring herself to just like demand they be killed. So she just has them like locked away, let me never see them again. I think showing you that there is somewhat deep down and like emotional connection to these two, that she can't just have them eliminated here, that she does care about them deep down, but is unwilling to say to herself in a way that that's the reason for why she's sparing them. So she just has them imprisoned away from everyone else. But huge moment, and it of course ends. The episode ends with them arriving back at the temple, and it's this shocking moment of just like, where were you guys? You went away with a war balloon and came back with a full airship that like defeated us at the invasion. You have Suki and our father, Hakoda, and this other guy, and it's just like, what went on? And it's just like, yeah, we went to a prison, we got these two, and Chitsang's new. I just think it's so funny that like you now have this hugely extended team avatar that like includes, you know, like the Duke, Teo, Haru, Chit-Sang, and Hakoda. It's just really funny to see that. But yeah, great ending to the episode, as Zuko has obviously done something very important for Sokka, and now he's also done something for Aang, for Sokka. Next up is Katara, of course, and then I suppose Toph has a little bit of a moment with Zuko. It's not really a full field trip, but you know, it's at least something in episode 17 between those two. But yeah, that's been my review for this episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on it, and the big moments and so on. Just what's your analysis on the big May Tylee betrayal scene of Azula and how important that is. But yeah, it's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.